everything else after that is going to be a problem. If you're starting off the rep backpedaling and you don't do that well, everything else after that is going to be difficult because you're starting off under pressure. You are watching and listening to the Indy Drills Podcast. I am your host, Chad Wilson, owner of All Eyes DB Camp, and author of this book right here, 101 DB Tips, sponsor of the Indy Drills Podcast, where we talk about all things secondary coverage. And, we hit on defense in here. That's what we talk about. No one really wants to talk about defense. We talk about it here on this show. Sorry, we don't, generate a ton of fantasy points for you folks out here. They ought to redo the rules for fantasy that allows you to generate more points by what the defense does. Maybe there won't be such a bias to offense. But who's complaining? I love that we have this show, Indy Drills Podcast, and I'm happy that you are here to check it out. If you like things and you haven't had a chance to do it yet, go ahead and subscribe to the show, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, Spotify, or whatever your stream of choice is. Go ahead and hit that button. Thank you for dropping in. Not a whole lot that I'm going to start off with here in terms of DB news, but we are going to hit some topics here today. Player development. We're going to talk about that. A very interesting question about the state of defensive backs coming from one of our users, visitors, watchers, whatever it is that you want to call it. And then we're going to talk about creating a mindset as a defensive back, because 80% of this thing is mental. So we do need to discuss that on the show. Like I said, not a whole ton of DB news. You know what? A lot of times there isn't, unless someone flares up and does something crazy, like a Chauncey Gardner getting himself ushered out of Houston. I think this is 5 teams in 5 years, something like that. Something's going on with my man Chauncey. He said he didn't, like his role over there with the Houston Texans. And I mean, if you're pissing off the head coach like what they have in Houston, man, I think he worked pretty hard to do that. So don't know where Chauncey is going to end up. I feel pretty certain one way or another is going to end up the way it always ends up with Chauncey. But, guy comes in, gives you solid play. And for as long as you can tolerate all of the other stuff that goes on with Chauncey Gardner. So we're on watch to see where indeed he does end up. He'll probably end up somewhere because, it's a violent game. People get hurt and people will get desperate for wins and they'll call him in. But, there's an end of the road here somewhere when you keep getting dumped off like that. Something's going on behind the scenes. And, anything I say about it would be pure speculation. But nevertheless, just handing out some superlatives. We had a couple of guys with 2 interceptions in a game this week. So we do need to, recognize those individuals. One is Cam Curl, a late pick into this league, by the way. Started off with the Washington Redskins, played very well there, is now a Los Angeles Ram and is doing his work over there. On Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts, picked up 2 interceptions against Daniel Jones, who's been playing well for the Indianapolis Colts, and he did play well once again on Sunday, just not good enough to topple the Rams, who came in there kind of fired up after a funny loss to the Philadelphia Eagles the week before. Also with 2 interceptions on Sunday, Kevin Byard, yes, that guy, former Tennessee Titan, is still doing his thing. He's a Chicago Bear and picked off Geno Smith twice. Don't love how Geno Smith is playing at the moment as a Las Vegas Raider, but that's neither here nor there. He plays for the other side. Kudos to Kevin Byard for grabbing a couple of interceptions in that game. Shout out to an All Eyes DB Camp client, Deshaun Elliott, getting an interception internationally, by the way, as he picked up an interception against Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings in that game played overseas in Ireland, where they rob backup quarterbacks. How about that? All right. That's how things went down over there in Ireland. I don't know. I feel like stuff like this might happen. We keep going overseas, but you can get robbed at home anyway. So That's just the way that it goes. In that game, how about Jalen Ramsey picking up that fumble early in the game, which I, seriously thought it was a touchdown. But on his way to the end zone, does a fake hamstring thing, turns it into the gritty, only to get a real hamstring injury later on in the game. Oh, man, it's a funny game that we've got going on out there. So, you know what? Since there aren't a ton of defensive back news and topics out there other than, what's happening on the field, thought I'd hit on some other things that are going on out here. This guy is a defensive back, but doesn't play it anymore. Richard Sherman, he had some comments at a halftime, I think it was, or post-game. I think it was post-game, somewhere around there, the Seattle Seahawks-Arizona game. He's on that Thursday night broadcast for Prime. I didn't care for those comments. Richard Sherman pretty much has reduced, Russell Wilson to nothing, pretty much. He's pretty much saying that Russell Wilson was only successful because of the defense and the running game in Seattle. And I don't think that that's how that went. That's not how I observed it. I felt like both sides needed both sides for that thing to happen. Yes, the Legion of Boom got a whole lot of press. Yes, Richard Sherman was a great part of that Legion of Boom, along with Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and Brandon Browner and Byron Maxwell. These guys all made up a very great part. I don't want to leave out any of the guys in the front seven, Byron Wagner and guys like that. They had a great defense. You need a great defense to win a Super Bowl. You know what you also need? You need great quarterback play. And that's what Russell Wilson provided for you. Stability. And when those moments were needed, when the deep ball needed to be hit or a first down needed to be made on crucial third down situations, Russ was either finding a wide open guy or he scrambled off. I understand, Richard Sherman, that you did not like Russell Wilson on a personal level, or there may have been some kind of personality conflict there with you, but I just don't think you should use that personality conflict or your personal dislike for a guy to tear him down and reduce him to something that he was not, which is just an also-ran quarterback, because of these personal feelings that you have. And to go do that publicly, I don't know, is the greatest move. I think Richard Sherman also forgets he's really just summing up Russell Wilson's true worth, seemingly, as to what he turned out to be once he left the Seattle Seahawks, which was the disastrous couple of years in Denver. And then, this season that he has right now with the New York Giants. Let me not forget the Pittsburgh Steelers last year where they, didn't accomplish their goals. I thought he played decently for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are not a whole lot of quarterbacks that are just lighted up since Ben Roethlisberger for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sometimes a guy's just made for a particular team, a particular system, and he just fits that. And then whatever comes after that is probably going to have a hard time. There has been a ton of examples of that in this league. So he has summed up Russell Wilson's worth as an accumulation of the years past his time with the Seattle Seahawks. What if we did that for Richard Sherman? I mean, he went to the San Francisco 49ers. He didn't kill it. I mean, they went to a Super Bowl, but was he what he was with the Seahawks? Absolutely not. He was a shell of himself. So what if we summed up his career as to everything that he did once he left after the Seattle Seahawks? We could say he was only good on the Seattle Seahawks because Russell Wilson allowed him to be that good. Russell Wilson probably kept him off the field more than he should have been, allowing him to be fresh and make those plays. What if we made that comment? It would sound ridiculous, wouldn't it? I think Richard Sherman's also forgetting the years when the Legion of Boom was no longer around and Russell Wilson was still a part of the Seattle Seahawks and cranked out some great years where he had some 40-plus touchdowns and flirted with, an MVP and all that great stuff. Really seemingly carrying the team. So I think he forgets about that. Don't agree with Richard Sherman on that at all. How about who we think is, well, I'm going to ask you guys out there in the comment section. Do you agree with Richard Sherman's comments about Russell Wilson? I get that Russell Wilson has been benched. And to be quite honestly, I've been a Russell Wilson supporter. For the people out there that want to call him corny for the culture or whatever the case may be, that's on you guys. I don't know what you think our culture is. Our culture is, I'm not even going to go that far with it. But calling him corny, whatever the case may be, or dismissing him because of that, nonsense. The guy's an upholding citizen, doesn't get himself in trouble. Guy's married, and goes home, does his work, tries to be good with his teammates, all that good stuff that you need out of a teammate. Did he do some quirky things? Sure. There are a lot of guys out there that do some quirky things. Hell, Marshawn Lynch did some quirky things. I mean, guys just happen to like that. So I've been a Russell Wilson supporter. With that said, though, however, I think that probably the time has come. You know, his career was when it was. Not all your quarterbacks get to play into their 40s like Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes your body ages fast, or you know what? You maximize the opportunity that you had, which Russell Wilson certainly did. It was not a first-round quarterback. Maximize that time with Seattle. That was the place to be. Since he's left there, he just doesn't fit in with the plans for the other places that he's gone to. I think that time has come, and I'm not sure what he's chasing at this point. Maybe the same thing that Aaron Rodgers is chasing, which is a second championship. No one's touching Brady, so I don't know what these guys are doing here. But it was pretty obvious in watching the Giants this past weekend that Jackson Dart is more suited for what they're trying to accomplish there. He inserts a certain amount of energy. Sure, he's going to have his ups and downs. He's probably going to have some bad games where people wonder whether or not the moving out of Russell Wilson was the right thing to do. But that's an NFL season. Things are up and down. But it seems pretty obvious to me that Jackson Dart is the route they need to go. They need to start that era. And, you know, Russ would do well to probably retire. But knowing him, he's probably going to try and end up somewhere else and see if he can reclaim the glory of the Seattle Seahawks days. So that's it on that. You know what? College football, that looks like the number one team in the country is the University of Miami. We could argue that. That's arguably so. I'm sure some of you will say Ohio State, and that argument could be made. Perhaps you could say they've, taken on some tougher competition than the University of Miami has. So we can, argue about that. Who is the top team in the country? Is it Ohio State? Is it the University of Miami? Or is it Oregon that went into Penn State during a whiteout and toppled the Nittany Lions? Is that the top team? You guys tell me down in the comments section. Which one of those are the top team in the country? Or do you have some kind of dark horse off to the side here that you would like to call the number one team in the country? Someone always has some opposing opinion out there. You guys can offer that up. One last thing on college football that I want to touch on. Alabama fans, are you guys back now? Are you all right? Because I remember all of the comments and the slitting of wrist after you lost that opening game to the Florida State Seminoles. You guys really aren't going to give Kalen DeBoer a chance. I need all of the Alabama fans out there to understand. Nick Saban is gone. The next coach is not Nick Saban. Please don't try to compare the next coach to Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer does not need to be compared to Nick Saban. If you want to ruin his tenure there, if you want to tank the future fortunes of your Alabama football team and put a curse on every other coach that comes in there for the next 10 to 20 years, do that. Continue to blow your mind every time they lose and start playing videos of Nick Saban's Alabama team and Nick Saban's press conferences and Nick Saban at a clinic talking about the essence of what it was at Alabama. They're not that. Let the new era begin. Take it from me, a guy who watched the University of Miami, an alumni of the University of Miami, who watched the team win in 2001 and is still looking to reclaim that glory some 24 years later. A lot of that had to do with the fans still living in the past. Let the new era begin and treat it as such. When Nick Saban came into town, I believe Nick Saban lost to a Georgia Southern or one of those directional Louisiana schools. He didn't start off winning the championship. That's not how that thing started off. It didn't start off that way. You guys don't romanticize the past. It was a rough couple of early years there for Nick Saban. So allow Kalen DeBoer to have a rough couple of early years as they begin the new era in Alabama. All right, I'm going to get down off of my soapbox. Let's attack some defensive back stories and issues here on the Indy Drills podcast, because that's what we are here for, is it not? We're here for that stuff right here. So first subtopic I want to talk about is player development. I want to say this every year I do for the for I just completed my 11th year of this. And that was pre-draft training, whether it was preparing guys for pro day or the combine. Been doing that for 11 years now. And what I have seen happen over time is less skilled players showing up. They are more athletic, no doubt. From 2015, when I started doing this, to 2025, the players are faster, they're stronger, they're bigger. No question about it. In that same amount of time, I've seen them become less skilled. They're not as good in their back pedals. They're not as good in flipping their hips. I would dare say in a certain way, and on a slider level, football IQ has fallen off a little bit, but just the basics of defensive back play has just fallen by the wayside. I guess they're saying these same things about NBA players, that the skill level, especially of American players, is starting to fall off. And I am becoming concerned about it. Obviously, my job is to fill in that gap, seemingly, for all of the coaches that are out there, high school, college, even NFL. That's what has allowed me to have the position that I have and why it has seen an explosion of people doing what it is that I do. I started in 2015. There were only a handful of guys doing what I do. And now when you look up, there are a ton of guys that are defensive back trainers, and we're needed. We are needed. I am not mad at that at all. I think the more the merrier. There are a bunch of defensive backs out there. There are a ton of guys that don't have the knowledge and the skill level to be playing the position at the level that they need to play it at. So the more trainers that we can get out here that know what they're doing in all of these individual regions, we can get all these defensive backs up to speed, because I'm here to tell you, I don't love games like Sunday night 40-40. Stop. You know you didn't have all the interceptions that you wanted to have this year. So how are we going to fix that problem? I've got two great resources for you. First is my book, 101 DB Tips, chock full of information and tips for you to get your hands on that pigskin. Everything from how to train, how to play man coverage, how to play zone coverage, and a whole lot more. Plus, the All Eyes DB Camp members area breaks down coverages for you, technique, quizzes, all kinds of great things in there that's going to up your knowledge, that's going to get your hands more times on the football this year. Check them out. I have a link in the description down below. Exciting, I'm sure, from a fan standpoint, from a layman's fan, standpoint. It's great to see 40 points and then continual touchdowns and celebrations. I get it. But from a purist like myself that enjoys defensive play and great defensive back play, I don't love 40 to 40 games. That means a lot of stuff went bad in that secondary, and I'm watching it. And so we need more skill development. And I think a big thing of what I'm seeing, because after a few years of watching this diminish, I just start asking questions. And I ask questions not only just for my pre-draft group, but the guys that I get throughout the spring and summer that I'm preparing for the next season. And a lot of what I'm getting and hearing is that there are less individual periods are shorter. They're more condensed. And the bigger thing that they're seeing in those individual periods is talk of scheme, where I fit in scheme, and less about developing the skills to be in that scheme and get things done. So what they're getting are blueprints, all right, spread out on the floor. Here's the blueprint. Here's the house that we need to build. We're not going to be giving you hammers or screwdrivers. You guys are going to turn those screws with your fingers. You're going to pound those hammers. You're going to pound those nails in with your fist. This is basically what you're telling them. How do you think that house is going to go up? How good and how strong of a house do you think you're going to have if that's the tools that the guys are going to work with? They're going to screw in the screws with their fingers, and they're going to pound in the nails with their hand. We're not going to have a nice house, are we? We are going to have those plans, though. And someone's going to come around, the foreman, which is also known as the defense coordinator, is going to say, I gave you guys the blueprint. Here's the blueprint. We've been talking about this blueprint for 2, 3, 6 months now. Why can't we get this done? Well, coach, these guys don't have the tools. What are the tools? That is skill development. It is developing a back pedal. And you have some guys out there that are so wrapped into the scheme that they start looking at the drills as this is monotonous, coordinated drills that we're just doing every day. It feels like a waste of time. You would think that if you didn't really play the position, if you don't really understand what it is to be there, okay? Playing defensive back involves a whole bunch of unnatural moves that must be repeated over and over and over again. That has to happen in practice. There are a lot of unnatural things that we're just not doing throughout the day. And if they're not repeated and there is an amount of consistency with that, they get cobwebs. And so they're not sharp in that moment when you need them to be sharp. All right. There's an art to coming out of a back pedal. There's an art to a back pedal. You would be surprised, shocked even, to see some of the back pedals that I see when I start that pre-draft process with guys to get them ready for their pro days or the combine. You'd be shocked. You've got whole programs that don't believe in back pedals anymore. When you go to the combine, there's going to be a whole bunch of backpedaling. There's going to be a whole bunch of drills that involve you backpedaling. And if you don't look good or smooth in that, you are going to get a ding for that. You're going to get ticked for that. Okay. They're having you backpedal for a reason. They want to see you in that. All right. They're evaluating that. And so for all you programs out there that just want to eliminate it like it's not a part, go watch any game on a Sunday. Just watch the secondary. I dare you to pull out an all 22. They're backpedaling. The safeties, the corners, and even the nickels as a receiver is running at you full speed. So if you're not comfortable in that situation, you can't execute that. Everything else after that is going to be a problem. If you're starting off the rep backpedaling and you don't do that well, everything else after that is going to be difficult because you're starting off under pressure. You're starting off under pressure. You're starting off doing something that you don't know how to do or you don't feel comfortable doing. So you don't just go from stressed to not stressed. All right, so I'm really good at a crossover run. But I start off with this back pedal and I'm a little nervous and now I'm just going to smoothly go into the crossover run. No, you're not. Crossover run's going to be a little janky too. Okay, so to alleviate that, I just won't backpedal. I can start off in something I feel really good in, which is in a crossover run. And you are going to get manipulated by the wide receiver. He's going to attack your blind spot. He's going to get you spun around. He's going to put his foot in the ground and run away from you. And he's going to catch the football. And not only is he going to catch the football, he's going to catch the football with space. So now he's going to turn around and he's going to be in a position to put moves and jukes on you to leave you in the sand and go by you. Okay, so there's a total lack of skill development, and that's because we are in these programs where we're overly schemed. It's happening in college. I'm seeing it migrate down into high school, and the reason that happens is in the off seasons, a lot of these high school coaches go to these clinics, whether it's the Nike clinic or it's the big, football coaches association convention, and all of the other smaller clinics in between. And the biggest talk there is about strategy and scheme. I understand it. Guys want to learn scheme. You want to make sure you have a sound plan there. You want to make sure your blueprints are right. You want to make sure all the drawings in your blueprints are right. What I'm saying to a lot of these coaches, especially at the high school and college level, is don't put a mansion on those blueprints, okay? Don't lay out the blueprints for a mansion. Lay out the blueprints for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. Lay out the blueprints for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, a single-family home in a middle-class neighborhood, because you are dealing with young players, some of which who are just still learning the game, number one. Number two, half of their day is being taken up with something more important, which is their education. All right. They're taking English classes, science classes, history classes, all of those things. And they need to pass these classes to be, eligible to be on that football field. Or this is, super important to them that they need this education for what they know is going to be coming after their football life, whenever that ends. So they are consumed with that partially, not just by the time they spend going to class. They have papers due. They have homework assignments. They have tests that are coming up. So they have to devote some portion of their brain to that. They don't need to come to the football field now and get over maximized by this mansion you have on a blueprint, this elaborate scheme that you want to run with 1,000 coverages, with 400 checks, and complicate a football system that should be a lot more simple. I'm all for trying to teach guys things, but Know your limits. And if your scheme is spilling over into a guy's indie period, so there's only 7 or 8 minutes of real individual skill development work, and I've got to spend another 7, 8 minutes teaching the scheme, we're doing something wrong. You're not going to have developed players, and they're not going to have the tools they need to work within your system. They won't be able to build that house that you laid out on that blueprint. Your architect drawings will just be that, architect drawings. They will be a vision of what could have been, what you had hoped would happen. You're throwing a lot at these players and you're not giving them enough to accomplish it. I hear the frustration in them every offseason. Now, they don't feel comfortable to, most of them to go sit down in your office and tell you that. They just want to go with the flow. They're not trying to upset the coach, and they're not sure if how they feel is the way another guy feels. And if that's how I feel and another guy doesn't feel that way, well, that other guy is going to play because maybe I'm stupid and that guy's smarter than me. They're just going to be hesitant coming to talk to you about that because you're the guy that makes the depth chart. You're the one in charge of their playing time. So they're going to be hesitant to come to you. They dump it all on me. They tell me all about it. I'm not learning anything, coach, other than this scheme. I'm not, the only time I really get any kind of drill work is when I come here to you. Cool. That's great. I think I should just be sharpening what these guys already learn when they're with the coaches out there. That's what I think should be happening. I don't think I should be building it from the ground up unless I'm dealing with my high school group and I'm getting a 13, 14-year-old. Sure. All right. I can, assist with that. Ultimately, though, that player is going to have to execute the techniques that you want. And that's one of the things I try to find out when a guy comes to me. What is it that your coach wants to do? What type of press does he have a preference there? Is there something that he absolutely wants you to do? And we talk about that with all of the individual techniques, the alignment and everything else. I'm not here to teach you something that you're not going to be able to use when you go. That's counterproductive. So what is it that your coach wants you to do? Let's talk about that. Let's have you maximize your abilities with that technique that the coach wants you to do. But good God, teach them some technique, give these guys some tools. So on top of that, on top of not having the tools, they're lining up out there on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays in some cases with that in their head that they don't know enough. And confidence is such a big part of this game for a defensive back. So if you're lining up there and you don't feel comfortable with your technique, you don't feel like you've learned enough, you don't feel like you have the tools, it's very difficult to go out there and play with confidence. You got to almost be a little psychotic to do that. I know I don't know enough, but here I am. I'm just going to wing it. And that's admirable if a guy can take himself there mentally. There are a lot of advantages to that, and we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But my plea really is to the coaches here, first of all, consider your blueprint. If you have a mansion, let's reduce that. Let's take some rooms off of this mansion. Let's get it down to a single family home. Let's reduce what you're running to something that they can digest. Okay, they're spending half the day learning other topics, other subjects that are required for them to even be on the field with you. That's still a part of this thing. Even though we've introduced all this money into the sport, even at the high school level, they still got to get an education. They're still consumed with that. That's a part of it also. And let's not forget that they're younger and in most cases still learning how to play this game. So consider your blueprints and how much you're running. And if you are eating up a position coach's individual time with a bunch of scheme being taught, I can guarantee you that scheme's not going to get ran the way that you want. You will constantly be unhappy with the player's performance. You will constantly either be switching players out or thinking about where you can find another player to run this thing. And it's going to be the same thing over and over. You take that one player out because you think this player is better, and that player is going to struggle because he's never been given the tools. Maybe you want to go out there and you're just going to recruit all the guys that have these tools already. God bless you with that, because tools diminish. So a guy could come in here with all of the tools, and he just gets worse as he spends his time with you. That's a bad look for you. He came in good. He's leaving less than the good that he was when he came in. Or he comes in as a freshman and he's no better as a junior than he was as a freshman. That's a bad look on you. So my pleas to you coaches out there, really consider your blueprints, really consider how much you're running, consider all of the checks that you have in a coverage. Consider the amount of coverages that you're running. You could be overloading these players, and allow your position coaches to teach the nuances of the position, especially defensive back. Give them that opportunity to do that. I'm sure the coaches themselves would appreciate it, because I know what it's like to be a position coach and look out there and watch your guys executing the techniques that you've gone over the day. Similarly, it must be really frustrating for some of these position coaches to see a guy not lining up the right way, not using a technique that they would like them to use, and knowing that the reason that they aren't able to really go out there and execute and use that technique is because they just haven't had enough time to do it. At least at the high school level, a lot of the position coaches played the position at some point, so they know the feeling. They either know the feeling to be out there and haven't had some good coaching and being able to use a technique to neutralize a player that they are, a lot of times involved in a one-on-one battle with, or they're out there and they don't know what to do, and you're standing there in front of a guy that's getting ready to run down the field and catch a ball on you, which nowadays doesn't just, live in the memories of those who were at the game. It's on Huddle now. It could go viral. It could be on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok within moments if you get embarrassed, if a guy happens to make a really good play on you. All of this is sitting in the player's head. So, man, give that guy the tool. Give that guy the weapons. If you want to take a military look at this, don't send your guy onto the battlefield versus rifles with a handgun. Give that guy a rifle. Give him a chance against the enemy that is coming at him. It is a frightening position, defensive back. Defensive back, left tackle, very frightening positions. Your mistake is highlighted. A mistake for a left tackle is a sack on a quarterback that could turn into a fumble or the quarterback injured. A mistake out on the island in coverage as a defensive back could result in a 50, 60-yard touchdown that's on display for everybody, and that robs the confidence of the players. So that's my soapbox on player development. Let's start digging a little bit more back into that, as opposed to just going scheme crazy because you want to run the scheme that you saw Alabama run or Georgia run at a clinic. Take portions of it, reduce it for your players. Maybe you do that, but you're not going to run the whole full scheme. You're not going to run the whole Vic Fangio defense with your high school football team. Vic Fangio has his guys in the building from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, and all it is football. There's no econ classes. There's no history of the world classes. There's no biology. There is no trigonometry. There's no algebra 2 that they are dealing with. It's football all day, so you can't expect them to run that. And he's teaching it to grown men in their mid-20s, early 30s, not teenagers, not guys in their 20s or early 20s. All right? So I'm going to come down off my soapbox on that. I just really felt that I needed to tell that. Time now for the mailbag. As I say each and every week, the best way for you to get a question answered on the next Indy Drills podcast is to post that question in the comment section down below of this podcast that you are watching right now, if you are watching it on YouTube. If you're not watching it on YouTube and you're streaming this on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or the streaming device of your choice, I think on Anchor, you can ask a question there. Outside of that, though, you could send your question to cwilson@alleyesdbcamp.com. Again, cwilson@alleyesdbcamp.com. I will answer your question. And if I choose to use it on the next Indy Drills podcast, you will hear it here. This week's question comes from Riley from Pennsylvania. Riley from PA, as I always like to say. Ask me, what do I think is the biggest problem facing DBs today? Hey, Riley, I might have touched on it on my last topic here, but no, a bigger thing that I think is facing defensive backs, as well as their coaches and just defenses in general, is, what's the word that I'm looking for? We're passive now. We have gotten passive. We have taken aggression out of the game. I understand what has happened with this game going forward, and I understand why it has been done, to a certain degree. There have been a lot of rules instituted over the last 5 to 10 years in football looking to make it a safer game. One, looking to make it a more entertaining game because we have sought to bring in more casual fans into the game of football to grow it. Football would not be as big as it is if we just left it to all of the football nuts, the hardcore guys, the guys that dress up in a Darth Vader mask to go to a Raiders game. It just can't be those fans because there aren't enough of those for the game to continue growing. So in our quest to grow the game for the casual fans and to also make it safer, we have limited a lot of things, and seemingly a lot of that has been on the defensive side. So this year, for example, in the NFL, they're calling a lot more of illegal contact. That preceded, or that's coming after having, gotten real stiff on pass interference. Hard to touch a guy anymore. You can't hit a guy over the middle of the field, okay? You can't lower your head. Okay, these are all great things. We're not trying to see guys carted off. This does not mean now that we have got to become completely passive. Another thing that has happened, and which is what's probably going to be my focus in our discussion here, Riley, is that especially when I see guys playing press corner, playing press man technique, not just corners, but even guys covering in the slot, is we've gotten very passive in that technique here. We have opted more for trying to mirror releases and run down the field with guys instead of trying to get hands on them at the line of scrimmage. Now, I do understand wide receivers are getting more and more skilled at evading contact at the line of scrimmage. That's what they're supposed to do. There was a problem. They went about fixing it. And so they've gotten more training with moving laterally, swiping hands, and, using some misdirection to try and lose a defender at the line of scrimmage to get space so they can carry on throughout their route without being handled by the defensive back. Likewise, on our side of the ball, we need to match that education and that skill development with our own so that we can maintain our ability to touch, affect the routes, and get hands on wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. We have got to stop allowing them to do whatever it is that they want to do down the field. And so far as what happens after a catch or across the middle, you can still put a shoulder into a guy, okay? Just, be mindful about using your head as a weapon and launching into fellas. Perhaps coaches need to do more along those lines of teaching guys how to hit the right way, but also continuing to be violent and aggressive. It's one thing to take the top of your helmet and launch it under a guy's face mask and knock him out cold. It's another to use your shoulder to launch it into the midsection of a guy and really affect him to where he drops the ball or doesn't feel like going across the middle anymore, and you get really rough with him, take him down to the ground with aggression, because that's the world we live in on the defensive side of the ball. We need to not take that completely out of the game because we feel like that's the only way we are going to be able to work within the framework of the rules. Study the rules more, get an understanding of what it is you can and can't do, and maintain as much aggression as possible within those rules. Getting back to what's happening at the line of scrimmage, though, I have seen guys, as I said, more wanting to mirror guys and run and just be running right there next to them. Also, guys who do intend to get any kind of hands on a wide receiver at the line of scrimmage, they are doing so with very passive hands, just laying the hands on the wide receiver and hoping that he will guide you to where the ball will finally be. You're not affecting the receiver there. The part of this whole thing is intimidation. That's like sticking your right hand or your left hand out, depending on whatever kind of boxer you are, lefty or righty, in the ring and just sticking the jab there and just trying to lay it on a guy's head. No, it's a stiff jab. Okay, it's a stiff jab to affect the opponent. And that's what needs to happen with your hands and press. We did a whole lot of work with this offseason at All Eyes DB Camp at all levels, high school, college, and pro. Let's get back to being strong with our jams, affecting the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage and making it a bad experience for him. That's what we're out to do. They don't like being touched. I coached receivers for quite some time. They don't like the contact. There's a handful of them that do. All right. The ones that are real supreme route runners, they don't want to be touched. They want to do all those sweet moves that you see them doing with the cones and all of the cuts and all of the noises and all the stuff that you see guys like Route God doing. They want to do that. And nothing wrong with that, by the way. Route God does a really good job. But while they're doing that, they don't want hands on him. It ruins the whole process and experience for them. And our job is to ruin the whole process and experience for them. And the only way that we can really do that is being aggressive and getting our hands. Now, notice I'm saying be aggressive, not over aggressive, not overzealous, not doing this without good posture and balance at the line of scrimmage. I think we all have seen clips of Darrelle Revis, and we can all agree that he was aggressive in press, but you rarely ever saw Darrelle Revis off balance in his press man at the line of scrimmage. Rarely. And this is what we should always be striving for, that type of thing. With good balance, coordination, movement, and body control, we position ourselves with our feet, as many people have been working to do. And then when we have that player set up, the receiver, he's in our sights, he's close enough, put strong hands on him. Let's stop laying passive hands on guys and allowing them to just go on with their lives and run the routes the way that they want to. Let's get back to being aggressive in all phases of this game within the framework of the rules. The moment a new rule is made and it seems to want to limit us on defense, let's not turn that into, oh, well, we just can't be aggressive anymore. Study that rule, find out what you can do, and stay as aggressive as possible. Or I mentioned them earlier in this broadcast, the Legion of Boom. We could adopt that mentality that they had, which was we're going to be aggressive and we're going to force the referees to keep calling. Let the referees mar the game by continuing to just throw these flags.
Parents, dads out there, if you're trying to get your kid to the next level, you're trying to get him to the level of elite skills, you've got to use these resources that I have available to you. One is my book, 101 DB Tips. It's the greatest book out there for DBs. Everything on covering man, playing zone, playing corner, playing safety, how to study film. It's an excellent resource for your young tyke that's trying to become a big-time DB. Also, the All Eyes DB Camp members area is a superpower. Over 200 videos in there on all types of things like how to play coverages, technique, strategy breakdowns, and more. Two great resources for your young guy if you're trying to get him to the next level. Take advantage of them. Link down in the description below.
We're going to just be who we are. And they impose their will not only in the other team, but on the referees as well. Got it to a point where they made a new, they established a new level for the referees. Referees are coming in there and they want to throw flags for any contact. Well, they're in there making their contact. And referees are just reconsidering, man, we just can't keep throwing these flags. So we're going to let a little more contact happen. So the Seattle Seahawks, Legion of Boom, moved the line a little bit and went from absolutely no contact to we'll allow a little bit of contact, or we're going to allow contact unless it really seems like they were tugging or pulling on a guy. They moved the line and they reset the line. We're going to play football like this today. This is how we're going to play it. When you come into town, this is where we play football. We don't play it over here. All right. It's not flags yet. Until you put flags on these guys and we're out here with helmets and pads, we're going to play football over here. Okay. So try to push the envelope of aggression as far as you can when new rules come out. Let's work with the current rules with that mind frame. We have to continue to be aggressive. So Riley and PA, I think that's the biggest thing facing us today. Players and coaches have become too passive in our techniques, passive in our play calls. Everyone wants to run cover 4 now and cover 2 and just keep the ball in front of us and allow the offense to use the words of Hagstram back in the day, matriculate the ball down the field. 10, 12 play drives where they hold on to the football and they eventually get in the end zone. Because you know what? Nowadays, maybe back in the day, they wouldn't do it. Quarterbacks wouldn't. Nowadays, they'll check the ball down. They'll swing the ball out in the flat. They'll just keep taking all that space you keep wanting to give them right in front of you, keep it in front of you, keep it in front of you. They'll get down the field. And for you guys in the NFL level, I have seen more 60-yard field goals attempted and made that I don't know that you want to really keep playing that strategy. Team gets a ball now, even with these new kickoff rules, they get the ball on the 35-yard line. They move another 20, 30 yards. They're in field goal range, guys. Are we going to get aggressive? Are we going to try to get a sack? Are we going to try to get an offsides penalty, a holding penalty, and put them behind the chains? Get aggressive. All right? I digress. Moving along into the final topic today, and that is creating a mindset at defensive back. And as with most topics and all topics, I'm talking to both coaches and players here. 80% of this thing back here is mental. I continue to make the comparison of playing defensive back is very similar to playing baseball and being a batter in the batter's box. You don't have that proper mentality when you come to the plate, you will get defeated by that pitcher because the statistics say that pitcher should win the majority of the time. That's usually what's going to happen a majority of the time. How do we know that? A player is considered good as a hitter in baseball if he hits 300. Do we know what 300 is? 300 is simply you got to hit 30% of the times that you went up there. The other 70% of the time, the pitcher and the team that he was playing for won when you came to the plate. So failure is what's going to happen a majority of the time. And if failure is what's going to happen a majority of the time, you can't be a person who, when the failure comes, you go in the tank. If you, off of a failure at the plate as a baseball player, as a batter, take that to heart and don't think that you're going to hit the ball the next time, well, then you don't become a 300 batter. You become a 200 batter. You become a 100 batter, and you don't get to be a 100 batter long. You don't play as a 100 batter. That gets you out of there, okay? You don't get to run around with a 1-something batting average. So likewise, when you're playing defensive back and you're lining up in front of a receiver or you're lining up in coverage, you know what? Not at a clip like it is for a pitcher winning 70% of the time, but the majority of the time, they're going to complete those passes. How do we know? Quarterbacks have completion percentages nowadays in the 60 to 70%. They do. They complete more passes than they are incomplete. Okay. Same thing's happening in man coverage. Majority of the time, that receiver is going to win. There's a lot of things working in his favor. Okay. So with that said, you got to have the right mindset. Okay. And the mindset is a mindset of domination and confidence. You have to develop that as a player. And the way that you do that is being slightly delusional, but this kind of stuff starts in practice. It starts in your training. It starts anytime you are faced in a competitive situation. So I say this to guys, take all of the competitive situations that you find yourself in life seriously. That could be going out on a bowling outing. That could be playing a video game. That could be playing a card game with friends. All of that is going to be your training for being in competition. Now, family members might find you to be a little bit too intense. Why is he tripping so hard on a spades game? Like, what's up with this guy? Or, why is he going so hard in this bowling? All of this is training for your mentality that you're going to have in this main thing that you do, which is playing defensive back in the game of football. You have to train your mind to be competitive and to handle wins and losses properly for you to succeed. Be able to handle a loss and say, okay, they got lucky. Come again. Learn how to keep going and not dwell on a loss. You gutter balled. You hit one pin. You didn't pick up the spare. You needed a strike and you didn't get it. Learn in those situations how to deal with that and keep going. Is there another frame? Is there another game? Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to lose my mind off of this one bowl. I'm not going to lose my mind off of this one hand in spades. I'm not going to lose my mind off of this one play in the video game. You've got to train your mind to have that mindset of, I am going to maintain confidence at all times. I'm going to take that confidence and turn it into a dominant mindset. Yeah, you know what? Mike Tyson got punched when he went in the ring. Mike Tyson, at his height as a boxer, was the most dominant boxer I'd ever seen in my lifetime. And he went in the ring and got punched. Yeah, he got hit. Didn't care. Oh, I got hit. Okay, I'm coming with my own. You give up a pass in a game. You give up a touchdown. Okay, you're in a rivalry game. You're going against the big-time rival from across town. First drive, they go down there. They hit you in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Bet. You've set the offense up for the rest of the game because I'm not going to lose my confidence. You're going to get a little too happy and think, oh, okay, he's sweet over there. We're going to go at him today. We're going at that guy today. Yeah, okay. What matters next is what's in your mind. It matters now what's in your mind as that defensive back. Cool, bring it. I want this. I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to have opportunities in this game. So they send it over there again, interception. Thanks for coming out, guys. You thought it was sweet over here. All right, quarterback, you're not sure. Which one am I today? Am I the guy that gave up that corner route for a touchdown in the first drive, or the guy that got an interception that second time? Let's try him again. Let's see what he's on. Another interception. None of those things happen if you fall in the tank off that first drive touchdown that they got on. You lose confidence right there, like, damn, oh man, this is the crosstown rival, and they have a really good receiver, and they've been talking about him, and oh, he's so great. You make this guy out to be 7 feet tall and run a 4 flat 40. You turn him into that. Oh, okay. When they do come back over there, because they will, oh yeah, he's going to catch the ball because he's 7 feet and 4 flat. In your mind, you made him that. He's not that. This little pipsqueak caught a touchdown. God bless him. Good job, my guy. Tell him to come on over here again. You got to keep that delusional mindset. I talked about Chauncey Gardner earlier. Part of what makes Chauncey good on the field is part of, probably what gets him kicked out of all of these locker rooms, but he's delusional. And that's cool if you want to have that mindset on the field. I do recommend that you turn that off when you get in the locker room and you're around your teammates and you're living your regular and normal life, but go be delusional on that football field. Anything you catch on me is luck. That's not going to happen when you come over here again. Maybe you catch 2 in a row. Great. Third one's mine. That's the mindset that has to be created. So that's for my players. You have to keep that mindset, a dominant mindset. Your mindset has to float between 2 things, confidence and dominant. I'm going to dominate. Confidence and domination. Confidence if you suffer a setback, domination if you come out killing it. You kill it, you come out, that first drive, you get a pick, I'm getting another pick. And if you guys don't want to come my way, I'm going to come over there to wherever you threw the football, and I'm going to get the football out of his hands. We dominate. So when you don't have success early, confidence. When you have success early, dominate, crush them, crush their spirit, take their heart. Those are the 2 areas you need to float in between as a player. 80% of this thing is mental. So you did all that training to get stronger, to get faster and more skilled. It will be nothing if you don't have the proper mindset. If you're not confident, you don't get to activate any of those things that you work so hard on. They will not activate. They will be tucked down in your belly for no one to see because you don't believe in them. Be delusional. So now I'm talking to my coaches. I've seen coaches out there that are scared to death. And if you are a scary defensive coordinator, if you're a scary position coach, please believe you're going to put that mindset onto your players. If you absolutely lose your mind when a guy gets a ball caught in him, when you call man, let's say you're a predominant zone team. And I'm saying this because I've seen this happen with teams out there. You're a predominant zone team. You're one of these quarters guys that plays a lot of cover 2. Keep the ball in front of me. At some point you realize I got to get aggressive. Let's send a little heat. Let's play man to man, and a ball gets caught on 3rd down and the drive gets extended and you lose your mind. You either lose your mind right then and there on that moment, or you lose your mind when the team comes off on the sidelines, either after a final 3rd down stop or a touchdown, and you just won't let it go. Or you go over and dwell on it over and over and over in the film session or the practice after that game. You are going to make a scary DB. You're going to make a scary player who won't have confidence and will never float into that mindset of domination. He just won't have that. And if you keep that up, you're going to have 4 or 5 guys back there with that mentality, and they're just going to keep giving up plays. They're going to keep not getting it done in man coverage, and that's going to seep into the zone coverage because you have made them scary. You have 0 trust in them. You're a zone team, and a guy, you call man, and a ball gets caught. We're going to get him on the next one. Believe in yourself as a coach that you're going to make better calls in the next series of downs, and that the player is going to be able to make that play the next time. And even if it happens again, we'll get him on the next one. All right. Get that position coach with him and say, hey, what's going on? Let's see if we could tighten up some things. Allow that player to be in a place where he can give you some information when he comes off the field and not completely afraid of you to speak to you, so you can't get any info. If you don't get any info or data from your player, you can't make any adjustments and you can't make any calls. You can't help him with this technique. So don't get him into a point where he can't give you any information. Get him to a point where he can, feels comfortable, goes back out there, and he can float into the mindset of confidence, which then turns into domination. As coaches, you can either instill that in your players or you can rob them of that. Going on and on about a ball caught in man-to-man, where the predominant amount of time, the most of the times that ball should be caught by the offense. Most of the time. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. That's the way that it is. Most of the times in one-on-one situations, that ball is going to get caught. Not everyone is prime time. Not everyone is Revis or Bailey or Pat Surtain II. That's not everyone is that. And even those guys get balls caught on them. Even those guys get lost in coverage. We get to see the highlights of these guys, but sometimes you watch a full game and they got worked. They got dealt with. You know what they are armed with? A ton of confidence and a domination mindset. So it doesn't just keep happening. Maybe you got me this week. Next week, I'm going to get the next guy. Maybe you got me on this series, and the next series, the third series, you're going to have a problem. The fourth series, you tried again because you thought today was your lucky day. Oh, sorry, didn't work out for you. But as coaches, you build that mindset with how you handle your players when they have when they suffer a setback. Giving up a long touchdown, giving up a touchdown in a red zone, giving up a crucial third down stop, whatever. Clap it up. You got them on the next play because the next play is coming. You can't tell them, oh, just worry about the next play, and you're dwelling on it yourself as the coach. Instill that mindset. Final thing I'm going to say now for your players in terms of developing that mindset is you are going to get into crunch time situations. That is a final drive that the offense needs to score and get in the end zone for a touchdown, and they might be in the red zone, or it's a crucial third down play. You want the ball to come your way. If you're lining up in that situation and something in your head is saying, I hope they don't come my way, I hope the ball doesn't come my way, you are in the complete wrong headspace. You shouldn't be on the field. Instead, you need to line up and say, I want this ball to come my way. I want that ball coming here. Throw that fade over here. Throw that out route over here. It's mine. Please, please, please. Don't go anywhere else. Come here. That should be your mindset. Practice that in practice. Practice that bowling. Practice that spades. Attack all of these situations that you come into. Challenge yourself right here. I want the smoke. I want all the eyes on me. I want all the cameras on me. I want everyone looking at me. I'm not trying to hide in that situation. It's crunch time. Let's go. This is what I got dressed for today. This is what I practiced for all week. This is what I did all that training for. This is why I read this book right here, so that I could be in that situation. So I could be in that situation. I know what to do, and I want all the lights and cameras on me because I'm about to make a play. Under no circumstances should you be thinking about, I want the ball to go somewhere else. I want the glory. I want the limelight. Give it to me. All right. Shine that light on me. And that's how you build a proper mindset to go line up and be an elite defensive back that makes plays, that helps his team that wins All-American and everything else that's coming your way. Build the proper mindset as a player. Coaches, help your players out with that by how you treat them when they suffer setbacks, and also how you manage them when they start to have a success. You don't want them to get too out of control, but mostly when they suffer a setback, it's on you to help build them the proper mindset so that they can be the playmakers that you need. All right, that's it for my time here on the Indy Drills Podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the messages and the stuff that we talked about here on the show today. If you did, once again, feel free to share this, like it, and then also subscribe to the channel. Got shows and videos like this coming out each and every week. Also, on your way out, check out the links down below for my book, 101 DB Tips. Talks about everything from covering in man, the zone, how to play corner, nickel, safety, train in the offseason, study film. Everything you need to know to be an elite DB is right there. Also, link to the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Over 300 posts in there talking about strategy, technique, quizzes in there, how to play coverages, just about everything that you need to know about playing defensive back is right there in that members area for you. It is a superpower. Knowledge is king. Go grab that. 101 DB Tips, All Eyes DB Camp members area. That's it for me. I'm out of here. And as always, All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.